Hello and welcome to the 2021 Winter Ag Workshop Series. This is our last session of the series, Building Employability Skills. Today we're joined by Laura, Doreen, and Natalie. But first we have a little bit of housekeeping. There is a link to the pretest in the chat box. If you have not done that already, please take the pretest, and the post-test will also be in the chat box at the end, and you'll also get it in an email tomorrow. Your video and audio will be off for the rest of the session. If you need to chat, there is a chat box. If you want everything to be visible to everyone, so all the other attendees, please make sure the little gray drop down says to panelists and attendees. That will let everyone see what you're sharing. There's also a Q&A, so throughout the session, if you have any questions for our presenters, please drop them in either the Q&A box or the chat box, and they will get to them at various points. So with that, first, we will welcome Laura.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy days today to join us. And I really want to thank you, Cassidy and Charlene, and the PA Friends of Agricultural Foundation, to share some ideas with you about employability skills and how our work at the department supports you as an educator, and also joining with the educators that I have today. So I am going to get my screen set up. Okay, I am Laura Frederici. I'm the Career Readiness Advisor at the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And Charlene had asked me about some thoughts about employability and careers for this training today. And Charlene is one of our champions in career readiness in the state. So today I'm going to share a little bit with you how this organization is connected to our work for the Career Ready PA Coalition, and what that coalition is and how it serves educators and the workforce to advance career pathways, as well as take it to the level where you're learning strategies to find educators in both an urban school district in ERIE with Doreen, and in a rural school district, Newport, for career awareness and excitement in agricultural education. So in Pennsylvania, we have a goal for post-secondary attainment of 60% by 2025. So career awareness is an absolute need to increase post-secondary enrollment and completion, particularly among those historically underrepresented. And today we are really looking at a rural and urban environment and providing you with additional tools and resources. So I will provide you with a couple items that you can explore after. And today our educators will share some tools with you also. And how those tools help to develop those secondary career pathways, increasing interest in STEM and high demand occupations, especially in the high demand field of agriculture and its STEM connections. And by doing so, we increase access to and participate in post-secondary opportunities, not just the traditional 4-year, but 2-year certification, credential programs, etc. So if you haven't heard of the Career Ready PA Coalition, this is what it looks like. About 3 years ago, the Secretary Rivera asked me to develop a pathways overall arching system to connect educators in the field with good resources, cross-sector partners, so they have more to prepare students for career pathways. So like today, the PA Friends of Agriculture and Charlene are providing this training. She shared it with me, and I'm able to share it with you virtually statewide. We align these regions to the Department of Community and Economic Development economic regions because, as you know, you may live in one county and travel to another. I live in Perry County, actually, and normally in the real world time, I travel to Dauphin County to work, and I go, shopping, and we all do that. We go to college, we go to work, and so by looking at those regions, you can connect with a point of contact in each, and I will share that in a minute. But right now we have some polling questions. So let's take a minute and tell us who you are and what region you're in. So you're going to just take a minute to identify your career ready region. And I don't know, you may need to move the map, but so you can see it. So there are 10 regions. Identify it so we have an idea who we're reaching today. I'll give you another 10 seconds or so to complete that. And then Cassidy will show us our results from that. Okay, so today we have 30% from region 1, and I can't see the others as we scroll through to the other regions 9 and 10. Okay, great. The next question, can you bring it up? Do you know your regional liaison? That's a tough question. If you don't know your liaison, that's fine, but this is very helpful. So if you know it, go ahead, put yes, and if you don't, you will know it after this call. So while you're filling that out, in the last 2 years, 3 years, we have provided career education boot camps where schools would get a full 6-hour training on the career education work standards and integration. We provided teacher in the workplace trainings. We have a SAS repository and other items. So everyone on this call, or at least who submitted at this point, do not know your regional liaison. Okay, and I think we have one more question asking where or what your role is. So take a minute to do that. Okay, so this is great because we have a lot of educators on the phone call. So this should be helpful to you. Okay, thank you so much, Cassidy, for that polling. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Okay, so there are your regions. If you did not know you had a career ready region and a person to support you, you do. So as we move on to the slide show deck here. All right, so these are your regional liaisons, and I will provide a link for you so you can access that information. All of this information can be found if you go to Career Ready PA and you Google it, and you'll have connections to various websites that we'll talk about. So those are your regional liaisons. They are through the IU system, and they are there to provide trainings and support. And again, the system of support, 10 region point of contact, various trainings and resources and events. So this is something that will be, I think, advantageous for you to learn a little bit more about the coalition, and I'm very happy to answer more questions about it. So what makes up a region? I think I lost my screen there. Sorry. What makes up a region are all the schools in a region, all the higher education institutions, your community nonprofits like the PA Friends of Agriculture, Trade and Labor, STEM, your workforce partners, employers in your region, and agencies. All of those stakeholders support you with career education opportunities. And here's an example of Region 9. Very quickly, as you can see through that slide, that there are quite a few districts in the region, 24 higher eds. These are just some of the top levels that you may know of in a region. So if you're in Region 9 by chance, you may recognize some of these. STEM ecosystems can be multiple in a region. Workforce, there may be multiple partners, and employers, there's so many small businesses larger, but folks in these spaces are willing to support you with trainings and events. I very quickly wanted to just pull it together because what you're really, why you're here today is to learn how you can get kids interested in STEM and agriculture education. So what's really interesting is you may not be aware that CNH Industrial is a huge STEM supporter. So I'm going to stop this a minute and take you to one of the websites. When you think of CNH Industrial, you think of Case New Holland tractors. There's more to CNH Industrial than that. So I specifically went to a non-typical agriculture career because this is a global organization and they highlight on their webpage a few areas that they focus on. So there's marketing, and they go through job areas, finance, communications, and those are the non-traditional. That's not even beginning some of the tech positions. So then I went a little bit further and I wanted to show you one of the actual job openings that are available. Okay, so when you look at this one, this is a capital marketing intern. This one's in Wisconsin. Believe me, these are all over the country. Locally, there are also. So what we look is we see what do they really need. So in this one, they do want a bachelor's degree in marketing communications, and they ask for skills. So a lot of times we talk about building industry credentials in a school. This talks about Adobe. So if you have instructional technology programs, you want to work for an agricultural industry or any corporation, and you have some kind of digital design, there's credentials that are in Adobe. We often hear, well, what skills are needed in the workplace? Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint are used in my organization and still used broadly across corporations. And then they talk about some of the employability skills that you need: communication, prioritize, et cetera, digital medium, and so on. Talks about who they are. So this is just an example of what you wouldn't typically expect from a larger organization like that. You're thinking that it might have more to do with specifically agriculture. I'm going to quickly go back to my PowerPoint for you so I can put my contact information up. I apologize here for the delay. So at the end here, you don't have the broad screen, but it does have my email. PACurdy@iu1.org is the main contact for all of the liaisons. And if you go to this website, you will find a connection to the different liaisons in the state. So with that, I don't want to take any more time, and I want you to be able to hear from the experts in the classroom and move on to our next presentation with Doreen. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them at the end or by email if we have time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. I'm going to share my screen. Just gonna here. So I welcome everyone this afternoon. I was glad to see there were a number of people, a large group from Region 1, where I'm from. I'd like to introduce you to the ERIE community. If you haven't visited the northwest corner of the state, please come and visit us at Presque Isle State Park in the summertime. And if you like a lot of snow, please come and visit us if you like winter activities also. So you see in Erie County and Erie City, we do have increasing food deserts. And so food access is an important issue for us, as it is in many communities. The Erie School District has 15 schools, and we are eligible for the students to be served breakfast and lunch. It's taken us about 8 or 9 years to install 13 school gardens. We have them at the 10 elementary and 3 middle schools. And this past year, we could not have students in our gardens. So we work with 25 master gardeners and also neighbors, other volunteers. We were able to donate over 1,500 pounds of food, mostly distributed to our school families at our school distribution centers. So as the introduction said, my name is Doreen Petri, and I am a retired high school and college teacher. I taught for 40 years, mostly science. I am currently the project manager of Belong, Becoming Empowered by Living Our Natural Gifts, which is the district's sustainability plan. Currently, we have a USDA Farm to School grant, an implementation grant, a PA Farm to School grant, and a DEP Environmental Education grant. So we're working on those, and we have received a lot of grants through the years, over 450,000 in about the last 20 years. If you want to integrate a program into your school district or at a specific level, there are many things you need to consider. For example, let's just start with the central administration level. If you might have to have the superintendent sign off on a grant proposal. I work very closely with our curriculum director. She's wonderful. She's knows all about our programming. As a matter of fact, I sent her an email about sending garden boxes home with the third graders this year because they can't come out and plant our gardens. And she said, wonderful. Our operations manager, I've started working with him because he approves all student activities that I might propose, say bringing someone in. We can't take field trips because of COVID. At the school building level, there's definitely a hierarchy, definitely a protocol. So we connect with the principal. You might have to ask permission from the principal to contact grade level teachers, for example. In some of our schools, we also have school-wide specialists and community schools directors. Community school director, this program has been funded by the United Way and local businesses, and they have been a tremendous liaison between our initiatives and the school principals. But very importantly, instructional level. If you can identify a champion teacher, or maybe some of you, you're probably those champion teachers out there, or a club moderator, many times we'll ask them to pilot a lesson or a particular program for us. And then we can just see the impact and get some evaluations, collect data, and build capacity. Your community stakeholders are really important. As I mentioned earlier, we have 25 master gardeners, Penn State master gardeners that we work with. You might have a PTA at your school. And we work with the Erie County Health Department and other related agencies. So all of those are really important, especially just in specific certain situations. So one of the things we do when we try to incorporate a program into the curriculum in a school district is audit the current curriculum. What are the requirements? What do teachers have to teach? For example, we have our district adopted a new language arts program 2 years ago. And in that language arts program, there are tons of science and agricultural related topics like farms, plant parts and functions, life cycles. And so we know that teachers are required to teach that. How can your program reinforce that? If you go in, as we all know as teachers, and say, we've got some extra work for you, we'd like you to fit this into your daily routine, it's a non-starter. The other way you can do it is identify gaps. Maybe they're having a hard time teaching something like integrated pest management, and you can offer that to them. And pilot a program, start out small and collect data. Again, see the impact. What's positive, what's negative, what are the suggestions the students and the teachers can make, and how you can revise your project. And then you can, as I said earlier, build capacity. So starting at the elementary grade level, we have a science module in grade 3 called Plant Growth and Development. So we have our third graders do a seed planting lesson in class, and then they take their plants and they plant our elementary gardens in the springtime. It's a perfect reinforcement for what the teachers are already teaching in science. We also try to take some of our grade levels to farm field trips when we have the funding. And those students that help us take care of the gardens in the summer, we take them to the Waterford Fair. They have an educational day. And that's a great, great combination where urban students, because we are, of course, an urban district, meet students and adults that grow their own food, raise animals, live in a rural environment, and it's a very, very powerful combination and connection for these students. So the elementary school is at grade level when we make connections, but our middle schools are, we look at courses, and we've identified 2 courses, Family and Consumer Science. This past year, we had hoped that those students would be able to use some of our produce from the gardens, develop recipes, prepare them in their classes. That couldn't happen. We've been remote all year. So we sent recipes home, and you see this young man and his father preparing our vegetable soup. And that's one of our middle schools also has a junior chef club. And so we also try to highlight careers in talking with the students if they're really interested in gardening, in cooking, in all of these related careers to agriculture. The other class is a STEM class. And right now we have a program where we're working with 7 master gardeners. We hope to recruit a handful of families from our 3 middle schools that want to have a garden installed at their home. And the master gardeners will plan with the family. They will make a material list. They will develop a budget. They'll do the design of the garden, install it, and be mentors throughout the growing season to hopefully have a successful garden and start them on their way. So we look at, and we'll talk about different careers. We also talk about the impacts of climate change in that project and social justice. At our high school, we have 2 high schools. One has a career and tech, a number of tracks. You see that would relate to agricultural themes. And we also have a highly academic pre-college high school with academic courses, and we can make connections there too. And we're working more and more on that. Our goal eventually, as we continue to develop this, is to have a pre-K to grade 12, we call it a horticulture pathway, where every student at certain checkpoints is exposed to and has the experience of gardening and related careers, and really essentially outdoor education, especially in an urban environment. It's really valuable for these children, and they love it. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about, we do have that USDA grant. It is an implementation grant. And when we started planning for that, we had hoped to, we developed lessons and we piloted them the year before we received the grant. We thought we'd develop kits, train teachers around harvest of the month items. Well, COVID hit, and now we, instead of training teachers, we hired a videographer, and we're developing video lessons. They're about 15 to 20 minutes long. And the video lessons consist of a tour of one of the school gardens, highlighting one of the harvest of the month items. January is potatoes. A science lesson. So in January, our science lesson is types of soil and soil composition. We have a career connection. We have a farm visit, and we have a nutrition poem. So what we found is we think these video lessons will be more sustainable and will be able to show and highlight and include so many more topics. So I'd like to take a moment. Cassidy is going to show a clip of the January lesson about a career.
Deep. It's great when you do a good job at something. Wouldn't it be greater if you did a job at something that was good? First, think of what you like to do. Do you like digging in the ground? Are you good at reading maps and graphs? Do you wonder how plants grow and why potatoes taste differently depending on where they are from? Do you want to spend each day understanding the ground beneath your feet? Well, maybe you should become a soil scientist. Soil is life. Life is soil. By studying soil, you are studying life. From the rainforest to the desert, from the farms to the wetlands, there's a story in the earth. A soil scientist follows that story by measuring, charting, digging, mixing, and yes, even playing in the mud. As a soil scientist, you will study biology, ecology, geology, and physics. You study what makes things grow and help make a difference in the future of the earth for years to come. So the next time you get a little dirty, maybe you will think, I want to dig a little deeper and become a soil scientist. How about that for a good job?
Thank you, Cassidy. So you see in that clip, instead of just introducing a particular career, we ask questions. What are you interested in? What do you like to learn about? And what are some of the things? Do you have a hobby? Or is it something that you might want to explore as a career? So in talking about the USDA grant, and I mentioned a harvest of the month item for each month. January is potatoes, February is carrots, and March is dairy. So we decided to do a dairy supply chain and really highlight careers. And all of the other monthly videos, we would just have one career. But think about in a supply chain, how many careers you can connect and be very focused about incorporating all different areas of learning. So if we start in the bottom left-hand corner and we start with agriculture, would you like to be a dairy farm owner? Do you like to be your own boss? Do you like to be the boss of other people? We talked about a soil scientist, even a drone operator. Do you like technology? Some farmers actually use drones to look at their crops and assess the condition of their crops. And then how is the farm maintained? What type of careers and individuals have to do this? Do you like to take things apart and put them back together? Mechanics are very important when it comes to farm equipment and other areas that have equipment. Veterinarian, do you like science? Do you like to take care of animals or work in a greenhouse? And then how is the milk transported? Truck driver has to transport it, but the truck driver might work for themselves. They might be their own business owner, or they might work for a larger company, and that company has managers. And then the milk goes to a manufacturing or processing place. So in this slide, you see Kirsten, our entrepreneur. She works at 86 Acre Farm, which is the farm that we're going to highlight, the dairy farm, and she produces her own organic yogurt. So if you're an entrepreneur, are you a risk taker? Are you creative? Do you like an adventure? And do you like math? Maybe you would keep the books or be an accountant or a CPA for a company or a food inspector. You might like to make sure things are done properly. So you see that Kirsten has had to do some marketing. She produces Dodo yogurt. So she had to think about the label on her yogurt. She had to think about the packaging. She displays her yogurt, sells her yogurt at Edinburgh Market, which is a store where local growers bring their products to sell. So in marketing, do you like to talk to people? Do you like to explain things? Maybe you'd even be a teacher. Or do you like to draw? Are you creative in a visual way, a graphic designer? So this is just another way that you can really incorporate many areas of types of careers related to agriculture and a pathway. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you attending this presentation. And Cassidy, are there any questions for me?
It doesn't look like we have any right now.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So now I'd like to introduce Natalie Barkley. She is a high school teacher that has some great examples of what she does with her students.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Doreen. Hello from a very snowy Perry County. We just come off of a 3-hour delay today, so my head is still spinning because I saw my children very briefly. So I'm here to talk to you about some rural opportunities for agriculture careers. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen. Kind of new at this. We use Google in Newport here. So I come from a family of educators. I actually went to school at Delaware Valley College, and I've been here at Newport for 18 years. I have an agriculture background. I grew up on a beef farm, and currently my husband and I are trying to start a Christmas tree farm. It's in the very early stages. So agriculture and career readiness has kind of been in my life, in my entire life. My father was an agriculture teacher. My aunt was a retired agriculture teacher. So it's pretty much what I know. Our school district, we are a Newport school district. Our student body is pretty small. We're about 977 this year kids. We graduate about 80. And I see about 100 kids run through an agriculture class each year. A lot of these kids have experience with agriculture and careers. But not all of them can realize exactly what a job in agriculture is and how they relate. So part of my goal is to kind of make the connection. So these are my classes. I teach a lot of animal science, and I try to make sure that careers are connected to them. Last year, I added a floriculture component to my horticulture class. So the kids actually arrange flowers. They learn how to run a floriculture business. They learn how to price out arrangements, just small things like that. Simple things you could do, just a floral fundraiser or sell roses at Valentine's Day or carnations, and have the kids figure out what it would cost per carnation, do the math behind it, and try to set up a little mini business. Little career things like that add value to all different kinds of lessons. I teach a lot of animal science. I just listed some jobs here: veterinary assistants, kennel workers. My veterinarian class, they learn a lot of technician, they learn how to be almost a vet technician without the education behind it. So they learn how to restrain animals, and they learn how to take temperatures and do heart rates and respirations and stuff like that. So it's kind of easy to connect a career to an agriculture class. I think it's just important that we start to connect some careers to other classes that might be a little more difficult. Okay, so when I was first asked to do this, I started to ask all the teachers in my building if they connected careers to their classes, and I kind of got mixed results. And I just kept asking them, like, well, then when you introduce a new unit, why do they need to learn it? And they all just kept looking at me, and I said, why do I need to learn algebra? Why do I need to learn this? I said, do you ever give them a reason? Do you ever show them who needs this? Who works with this math? Who works with this type of math? Who does this, creates poems for a living? Who could do this? Why do I need to learn this? Where am I ever going to use this at? And I think a lot of kids ask that quite often. And I think it would be a lot more beneficial if they had an idea of who actually does this and where would they see this in their future and how could they use this in their future. So before we get into that a little bit, I kind of jumped ahead of myself. I wanted to show you all this very interesting program I recently did this year. I worked with the Pennsylvania Society for Biomedical Research, and it's available to everybody. It was a really cool program that we did with lab rats. So through their program, it's called the Great Grow Along. They provide curriculum. They provide the rats, they provide cages, they provide toys for the rats, and you teach the kids through lab rats how it would be to work in the biomedical industry, how it is to care for another animal, and then it's all a nutrition trial. So basically you get rats and they step you through, you give some rats milk and some rats sugar water, and then you give them normal food. So for example, the first week you just give them grains and sugar water or milk. The second week you add in a protein, just like a normal human diet. And then the kids weigh the rats and keep track of how they're growing. And there's a huge difference between the milk rats and the sugar water rats. Our milk rats got really, really fat, really fast, and our sugar rats were very skinny and very, very active. They would climb to the top of the cage and hang off with their little arms, and the kids were so excited about it. But this is a program that anybody can apply for. They do classroom visits, they do essay contests. These people are all about getting awareness of jobs in the biomedical field into the classroom so kids understand why it's important. And if they're interested in animals, this would be a great place to like start their career search. So I just wanted to point that out. That's a really good resource that was brought to my attention this year, and the kids love it. And at the end, you just adopt out the rats. So currently I have 4 rats that need a home. So if anybody has a rat interest, they can send me an email later and we'll make some arrangements to adopt a rat. So when I was thinking, after talking to the teachers, I was thinking, how could they get more careers, especially agriculture careers, into their classes? And just some ideas I had. It's just important to put a face with a career. And in a rural community, it's very easy at times. I mean, we have dairy princesses. I have a dairy princess alternate, and she will go into the classroom, non-COVID years, and do a dairy lab and teach the kids where the milk comes from and talk about the different jobs in the dairy industry. But I think now that we're kind of all shut down and closed in our classrooms and we're not allowed to bring in other people, we should take advantage of this virtual platform and ask people from a bank or a local farmer or entrepreneur, or ask the kids what their parents do. Have a little intro at the beginning of a lesson to say, oh, this is, if you like algebra, or you like geometry, you could be a landscaper, you could be a surveyor, you could do this job. This is what a person that has an interest in this does. And I think that when kids hear that and they're like, oh, I want to be I want to be a banker. I want to be a landscaper. Oh, so I need geometry. Okay, maybe I should pay attention and focus on this a little harder because I can see where I'm going with it. Other examples or other big, I have to put a big plug in for my 4-H and FFA. So as an ag teacher, I'm an FFA advisor, and FFA promotes career readiness all the time. In fact, we have contests that are based around careers. So make use of your local 4-H and FFA programs. They'll come in and work with you and get the kids interested, and they're just a great outlet. And we're always willing to help, and we're always looking for new like little adventures or projects to take on. So these are just some pictures of my kids. Our county puts on a soil judging contest every year. Well, not this year, but most years. And these are my kids in the soil pit. They're learning about soil conservation. And those are my kids selling emblems of Tractor Supply. So other just ideas, show a quick little career video, some way you can make a career connection. I have this really cool website that I want to show you that's through FFA, and it's called agexplorer.com. So I'm going to unshare and then reshare. Okay, so hopefully this worked. I'm hoping this works. Okay. If you can't see my screen, Doreen, somebody chime in so I know I did this right. This is a really great resource for ag education and careers. There's 3 really cool things I want to show you on for this. The first one is just the areas. So if you're interested, you're a math teacher, you want to talk about ag business or business, you can click on the section and it connects you with SAE ideas. It connects you with different jobs. You can click on the job and it gives you an idea of your responsibilities. It talks about the market. It even kind of hooks you up to some different available jobs. And that's really cool for kids in different classes to do a little bit of research and see where they could find a job or what kind of jobs would apply to something they're interested in. The next really neat thing on this website is, and this could be used for just about anybody, they have a virtual field trip section. So you can take your kids on a virtual field trip. They have all different kinds of videos and educator guides, and it basically highlights all aspects of the career. So for example, John Deere doesn't just focus on the production of the tractors. They're talking about marketing and sales and all kinds of stuff. So if you get time, this is a really neat website to check out. The last thing on this website I wanted to show you is this career finder section. So students go through the career finder and they answer questions. And at the end, it'll provide them with jobs that would be of their interest. So for example, which of the following best describes your educational goals? They just select the one that best describes them, hit save, and they work through each section. So once you work through each section, at the end you hit submit and it tells you what career would be good for you. So I kind of ran through things pretty quick. I did do this. Let me see if I can go back to my PowerPoint. I did that career guide, career selector, and these are some of the jobs they came up with. So for example, what I went through and selected agriculture journalist was an interest of mine. And then I can read about it. It tells me about the job. And then it also gives me some jobs that are similar to it. So if I don't like that description or I don't like that job, then here are some other jobs that I can click on and it'll give me more information about it. Or I could go back and do the career finder again. I did it twice because I know there's different interests in different areas here. So agriculture journalists, obviously, if you really like English or writing or reading poetry, this would be a good job for you. The other one I looked at was a grain elevator manager. So that's totally different. So I get a lot of kids in here that want to work with their hands. They want to be outside. They don't like traditional classrooms. And something like this would be right up their alley, working with a grain elevator, working on mechanics of the elevator, managing other people, kids that want to work with animals, buying, selling livestock, stuff like that. So this is a really great resource that you have access to. It's just on the internet. I was thinking, I haven't used it yet, but I was thinking about using it on one of our virtual days. We have a snowy day potentially coming up here, but I might just have my students go through the career finder and find a career that they like and then have them report back to me essentially what they found and if they agreed or disagreed what the career finder told them, that kind of thing. So that is pretty much my presentation. I'm kind of nervous this. I've never actually done this before. But if anybody's any questions or would like any more information from me, please put it in the chat.
Could you click on the educator resources on Ag Explorer?
Yes, maybe. Yes. Hold on a minute.
Natalie, it's Laura, it's at the top there. I asked that question and
Okay.
I thought that, yeah, there it is. Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah, so it also breaks it down by age. So 6 through 8, when I grew up careers, you can download PDFs that are going to give you lesson plans. Just is going to give you more career focus in areas. The virtual tour has some really cool lesson plans with it too, and ideas for you to use in the classroom. So there's a lot of really good resources on that website. Here's the virtual field trip again. So not only are there videos, there's an educator guide and a student handout. So it's just giving you some ideas that this works with Tractor Supply. So there's a video to watch and have the kids write about the business of Tractor Supply and investigate different jobs at Tractor Supply. So it's a really good resource for all different kinds of areas and different jobs, different interests. Laura, is there anything else you think I should show in here or?
No, I think you're doing a great job. I wanted to just share that I have I discovered Ag Explorer like 2 or 3 years ago, and in comparison to all of the tools that are out there, this is definitely one of the best. You know, there's so much here, and it's not even necessarily agriculture. So any student in any career, any classroom could use something like this. Your English teacher, your math teacher. So this is really good for getting those pieces of evidence. I also notice in the corner there, it has FFA. I strongly recommend going to FFA's website also. They have a lot with coding and computer careers. But yes, Natalie, thanks for sharing. This is one of my favorite websites. We have much more. I put a few links in the chat in terms of resources that are on the Career Ready webpage. But if anybody wants to see anything specific or has any questions, you know, feel free to ask. But this, you can spend all day here. Thanks, Natalie.
Yep.
Laura, we have a question for you. Could you tell us a little bit about the Teacher in the Workplace program?
Yes, I can. Let me get my video started again. Right now, there are Teacher in the Workplace grants that were awarded to 92 districts in the state of Pennsylvania, and quite a few are up in that Northwest region. It's not too late to possibly hop on to going to another district's events, but those awards were given out last year. They were $25,000 a piece. If you're interested in more specifics, or if I have any grantees on the phone, I would like you to raise your hand, or with any districts, but I can't see your districts from the screen. There were 3 rounds of Teacher in the Workplace. Everyone who applied for a grant last year did receive one through the Department of Education. So, you know, just email me and I can give you a little bit more information about them. They're running from now through the end of September. So again, if you would like to know what grants are in your region or how to share in those, I can share that with you. Hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
That could be very helpful. We have a question for Doreen. Doreen, could you share maybe a story about a student that, you know, maybe wasn't initially interested in an agricultural career, but, you know, going through your overarching program, maybe changed their mind and found something new?
We have a number of students that we can identify even at the elementary level that are really interested in gardening. And with some of our clubs, so the younger kids are very enthusiastic, but at the middle school we have clubs, and many times even the students just say they joined the garden club because they wanted a place to belong, and that goes to our sustainability plan. They wanted some place to fit in. They like to be outdoors. I had one student, actually a high school student, that was particularly interested in the gardens, worked with us, and she is now at Edinburgh University as a science major. I'm not sure that it's going to be particularly agricultural driven, but in an urban school, it can be challenging to expose students to agricultural careers because they think right away they need to be a farmer. And that's why we really do strive to have a career connection with all of the lessons or programs that we establish. And so we hope that by looking at varieties and tapping into different talents and interests, that we can have students look at just the possibilities related to agriculture. And Laura and Natalie have highlighted those because there are many connections in those areas. So I did have one student in particular that was very interested. She even came and volunteered in the summertime with us at the school gardens. And now, as I said, as a student, as a science major.
That's wonderful. It can definitely open up doors they wouldn't think about. This is a kind of general question for anyone or everyone. Have you seen a shift? So like previously there was a heavy focus on, you know, 4-year degree is the only way to go. A more opening up of, you know, the certificate programs or trade schools. Has that actually turned out better and had more kids go for that?
I can answer that. I think since the department is giving credit to schools that pursue industry-based learning, whether it's, you know, work experience, internships, job shadows, and so on, or an industry credential, there has been an increased interest by our school districts to adapt their programs of study to include an industry credential. So that's one really good piece. And in that earlier advertisement that I showed, I know I kind of went through that very quickly. I did want to point out that both Adobe and Microsoft Office offer a credential that students can get when they're in school. So we have seen an increase in that, as well as a trend toward non-traditional and career pathways. So many companies will start with, you know, something you need a certificate for or a 6-month program, and then they develop a kind of a stackable credential system to build those career pathways. But it's definitely, there has been a shift. And I think another shift that I've seen, especially I think with the pandemic, is there is an interest. Obviously, we all know that everyone likes to eat, and there's much more interest in the, and it's been for some time, the, you know, farm to table and buying locally from your local businesses. So if we have a minute, I wanted to share a local business, but I'll wait to see if there's any more questions that I didn't want to share earlier because I thought I might be running out of time.
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
wonder
Doreen.
if I could speak to that. We see in our community people wanting more and more to grow their own food. It's not necessarily career related, but if you would go to the landscape businesses or the garden centers, you couldn't even find plants or seeds or tools. And we had, I know some of our one time we have a garden educator that works with us, and she was riding her bike along the road and 2 little kids said, Miss Stephanie, come up here, come on our porch. And they had planted tomato plants in pots on their porch. And so we see students learn, when they learn about the value of growing their own food and where it comes from, they actually try to do that at home. And we're trying to really incorporate that. That's what our middle school program is doing in the springtime with the Master Gardeners, is teaching people to grow their own food, because it's environmentally, economically, nutritionally, it's all of those benefits. So it's not even necessarily career related, but life skill related. And the other thing about with the school gardens and some of the things I mentioned at the elementary and middle schools, especially with working adults, with adults in the gardens, the students learn soft skills. They learned how to communicate with adults. They learn teamwork. They learn problem solving, and they learn hard work, because gardening is hard work. And so all of those soft skills also translate into career related opportunities for the future.
Laura, if you want to share that, I think
Sure.
we have time.
Okay, it'll just take a minute. So, you know, I live in the same community that Natalie teaches in, and years ago I came from Harrisburg and drove up here to teach, and I love this little community. I'm from Western Pennsylvania. What I really noticed about, when you think about your community businesses and how things thrive, there was one agriculture business, Butcher's Farm Market, which I won't bring up. And this is really a really fantastic example of someone who works with their school district. At one point in time, I taught business there, but I also worked with the life skills students. And this female business owner, who's a large farm in the area, would bring projects in for the students in the classes. They would cut they would unwrap the Hershey Kisses. They would learn work skills, employability skills, and working with special education students in transition. It shows that if there is an entrepreneurial side to anyone, whether it's in the agricultural field or not, these small businesses and the support, when they support their schools and the community, it just thrives. And so I didn't want to get off this call today without sharing just a small example of a community business and efforts of them to work with their community. They have they have family fun farms, and they bakeries, and just people are coming in from Harrisburg and the city to this farmers market, because in this area farmers markets are very popular, but this one is really a great example of an entrepreneur that hires local students. So I just wanted to share that, to that idea of building employability skills in your community and those partnerships, because all of those things in the big picture build careers in all areas, agricultural careers and so on. So anyway, just wanted to share that little tidbit, and I really appreciate you taking the time today to let us share a little bit about careers and employability skills in agriculture and other areas.
Thank you very much for sharing all of your resources, everyone. Does anyone have any last closing remarks? Okay.
Just thanks again, everyone, and feel free to reach out to me. I know that Cassie's going to share the email and some of those links. You'll find many resources in those links that I shared with you.
Yes, tomorrow you will all get an email with those resources, and there is a sorry, I'm reading a comment. Do you want to talk about it? I will switch it over to Charlene so she can mention another program very quickly.
Hello, everyone. A question came in, is one of the things it was about our partner organization is the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, and we have, there's two things that we have going on. Really quick, I did mention it in the chat box, and it'll be in your career information. It is the Ag and Food Careers website. This is a partnership project that was done with our foundation, the FFA Foundation, the FFA, and several other ag stakeholders. This is a great program. It has videos, highlight different kinds of careers here in Pennsylvania in agriculture. There's also some teacher resources, including some scavenger hunts that are designed for middle and high school students. So could be used in a formal classroom, or like if you are, as was mentioned by Natalie, working with an FFA or a 4-H Girl Scout, Boy Scout group, these scavenger hunts are also options to use as well. So that is the one, and then I'll stop sharing that. The other thing I'll share is if you reach out to your county farm bureaus, they do have access to 2 different types of ag career programs that they can come in and speak to your middle and high school students as well.
Okay, so with that, thank you for sharing all those resources. There is a post test. Please go ahead and take that. And that is the end of our Winter Ag Workshop series. If you missed anything, feel free to email us and we can put you in the other on-demand sessions. But thank you, Laura, Doreen, and Natalie, and thank you everyone for attending.